Hey everybody, we are continuing our Best Picture series here on CineFix. This week we got a very special guest, Danielle Radford. You know her from Screen Junkies. She's a comedian, a writer, a podcaster. And we are going to talk about Dunkirk and whether or not Christopher Nolan's latest has any shot to win Best Picture. Danielle, thanks for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank
Great.
you.
Really glad you could make it to talk about Dunkirk.
Yes.
So, initial thoughts. What do you think of this movie?
Dunkirk is a great movie. Obviously, it looks amazing.
Sure.
It looks spectacular. It's got the typical Nolan-y time jumps, which are not for me, but they are for a lot of people. Don't at me. They are for a lot of people.
He did them a little different this time. Kinda.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. It's we all have our thing that we do. You know, some people like blue. But yeah, visually obviously stunning. Sounds amazing and loud.
Yeah.
Really, really loud. It's really about like putting yourself there in the action of this really horrible war. But for me, I like a bit of story. Mm-hmm. I like the words, man. And maybe it's because I'm a writer. I like the talking. I like, I like a lot of that stuff.
Sure, there's not a ton to grab onto, for sure, character-wise, because everybody looks the same. If you're not Kenneth Branagh in this movie, I don't know who you are.
Yeah, they're all you.
Yeah, exactly.
They just cast you.
Yeah,
just a bunch of brunettes.
It's a bunch of Stormtrooper, Clone Wars.
And then one of them is Harry Styles. Like they are all like.
Good luck finding him.
Yeah,
it's the Where's Waldo of.
I found him.
Yeah, he found him.
I know my Harry.
Okay.
I went to IMAX.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of really interesting filmmaking going on. Mm-hmm. The way that he used the music, it felt like a ticking clock the whole time.
I agree.
One of the most interesting things I thought was that you never saw where bullets were being fired from.
Right.
Bullets were just hitting around you. And you were like, it did really impressively put you into that world, but there wasn't any, that was the goal of the movie, I think, and I think it accomplished that. Like, caring about these people is not Christopher Nolan's strong suit.
Right.
So, like, I don't know, he's always keeps you at arm's length emotionally. So this is, I think, a movie that was right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
In terms of like, I just want you to feel what it's like
yes.
to be on this beach for that long and to be scared for your life. It's a war movie that didn't wrap anything up, which I think was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, we do kind of already, like, spoiler alert, Germany lost real bad.
Sure, yeah.
So luckily, like, you don't really...
But not like narratively, like, I'm curious about how this turns out. Like, because yes, we do all know how World War II ends up, to the point where I think we lose sight of what it's like to be in the middle of a war that we don't know how it's gonna turn out. And I think that's what this movie did really interestingly, and I think that's why it's relevant to our times right now in terms of, like, battles that everybody's fighting across the entire spectrum of humanity right now, and not knowing if the good guys are going to win.
Right.
You know, so like there's a really interesting vibe in this movie that does that I do think speaks to right now as culturally. Yeah. I think it's a longer walk to get there than some of the other films that are nominated for Best Picture, but I do think it's relevant to right now.
I agree. I absolutely see where you're coming from for that, and it is, the Nazis are all around, but you don't really see them. You're not too much, it's not about them, it's about the experience of the characters in that moment and how they are being affected and how they feel and how that then makes us feel. Like I deal with some anxiety, and in the theater I was just like, I don't like this.
It's like, I gotta get out of here.
I don't like it.
So, what do we think its odds are to win Best Picture?
He is Christopher Nolan. People really enjoy his work. Here's the problem with this movie, and it's everything that we have just described as being its strengths are also going to be its weaknesses, because Dunkirk is a movie that demands that you see it in the theater. It 100%, you have to see it in the theater. You do. And it's great on rewatches.
Harry Styles as big as you possibly can get.
As big, just right in his nose.
Right.
You need that experience. In the same way that, like, when I talk about Avatar, that movie is a ride, and normally I don't go in for like the gimmicky stuff, but that is a movie where I say go do the 3D, it is worth it, because that movie is a ride and it is an experience, and that is, I feel like, an integral part of the movie. I feel the same way with Dunkirk. You have to be in a movie theater. You have to see it in IMAX, like you just do, and a lot of the voters aren't going to have seen it in IMAX. They are going to have seen a screener.
It's not the same when you're watching it on your laptop.
It is not the same when you're watching it on your laptop. You lose a lot of the experience of the movie and what makes the movie work when you're trying to watch it this big.
I'm not the biggest Nolan fan.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I think like emotionally I can never get invested in his movies. I think everybody loves Nolan enough, and he's been sort of, he hasn't had his moment.
He is going to start to be one of those ones where after a while we're going to be like, okay, you got it. They're going to wind up giving it to him for like Batman 8 or something.
If he doesn't
because
get it,
he's just not, because he hasn't gotten it
If
yet.
he doesn't get it soon, it's going to be for some garbage he does in like 20 years.
Yep.
And frankly, the other thing I think is going to happen is just the way that the voting works, because voters have to rank all the movies.
Right.
I don't think anybody's going to place it below third. I think a lot of the voting will be split between the Get Outs and the Call Me By Your Names and the movies that are more explicitly about issues. And then I think everybody's second and third is going to be Dunkirk. And I think it's going to accrue enough sort of points. I think it's going to sneak in the back door.
Yeah, because there will be people who genuinely vote for your Gets Outs and your Calls Me's, and you know, because they are movies that they enjoy. And then there are going to be people who are like, I just got to put this at #1 so I can sleep tonight.
But the way the system works, there's room in there for. I really think Dunkirk is going to sneak in and steal it on a technicality in a weird way.
I had not considered that angle. That is not a bad.
I think it's going to rack up a lot of points, being near the top of everybody's ballot.
Even if it's not 2 or 3, no one's voting it below 5. That is absolutely, positively not
It's
going
not
to
going to be on
happen.
the bottom of anybody's ballot.
It's not going to be on the bottom. That is.
And it's not that it's an undeserving film. Like I think, like for all the reasons we talked about earlier, I think it's a deserving film. But it's going to piss a lot of people off, me included. Because like frankly, I don't need that movie to win Best Picture right now. Like if Best Picture is sort of a cultural event,
Right.
I don't need that movie to be Best Picture.
Again, I liked it. It was fine. For me, a Best Picture has to do all of the things. It has to look good. It has to be written well, and I have to care about the characters, or at least care about the circumstance. And in Dunkirk, while it is based on like this really like gripping story, I do need a person that's like, you're my guy that's going to take me through this, and I'm going to identify with you. Like
that opening sequence, I did like the subplot of the guy that's just trying to go. He's just trying to take a dump, and he just can't do it. That was the thing I was most invested in. Like,
that should be Nolan's new signature.
Yeah.
Just like the guy that can't poo.
All right, everybody, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about Dunkirk's chances to win Best Picture? Also, thanks again to Danielle Radford. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at Danielle Radford. And be sure to watch all of our other Best Picture videos. We've done a lot of them at this point. We only got 2 more to go, so be sure to subscribe to CineFix so you don't miss them. We'll see you next time.